Cominciamo. Come preferite? Funziona, perfetto. Cominciamo. Come preferite, va bene. Ci siamo. I don't speak Spanish.
Oh, I'm sorry. You had 10 minutes late on your schedule. There is another one at 4:45. So
Yes,
you better
but
start
you
now.
know that
It won't.
we will just.
Yeah,
are
I
very
know.
late,
I
so
know.
please give us-
We pushed. But there won't be any mic. Okay, you hear yourself
Yes.
in this.
Cuffie. Stefano, Pasolini. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm very pleased to start this side event on voluntary carbon offsets and their environmental and social benefits about the Fair Carbon proposal. This event will focus on the market potential of voluntary carbon offsets in Italy in order to evaluate possible guidelines. And also the development of such market will be analyzed as an instrument to both introduce innovation and technology to reduce carbon emissions and enhance local sustainable development. We will also see some case studies that will highlight the social impacts and the international collaborations of the FairCarbon projects. So without further ado, I would like to give the floor to Dr. Francesco La Camera, General Director of the Ministry of the Environment in Italy. So, Director, please, you have the floor.
Thank you very much for the invitation to be here.
Funziona.
So, thank you for our invitation, and it's really a pleasure to be here to address this meeting in this special occasion, the COP21. And I have to say also in this special year, because in this year the free process of the finance for development, the adoption of the sustainable development goals, the result that I'm sure we will get here in Paris of an agreement that will be ambitious and sure, that will be inclusive and that will be dynamic, so it will last for a long time. All these processes are in some way giving the future to our future activities. So I think that the context is very clear. We have a carbon budget that is going to end in 2040 if we don't change the way we produce and consume. It's not enough the measure of legislative measure. It's very important how the market is going to work. So how to provide the guide to the markets to go in the right direction of the decarbonization of our economy for a fair world. And in this context, also the voluntary activities, the one we are here to talk about, are very relevant. Just to begin, I want to say, because now we are more relaxed, and I have to say that we have fully made time in Italy the Kyoto target for the first commitment periods. It was not easy, I have to say. And the forest sector accounted for 3% of the total national greenhouse gas emissions. For the second commitment, Italy recently decided to elect cropland and grassland management activities under Article 3.4, Paragraph 4 of the Kyoto Protocol. The decision was taken jointly, it was not so easy, I have to say, by the Ministry of Environment and the Ministry of Agriculture through a consultation process involving all relevant actors. Agriculture and forestry sectors play an important role in supporting agricultural productivity and representing an effective mitigation strategy. Soil can stock high quantity of carbon, and its management may well affect global emission budgets. The management of carbon in the agriculture and forest sector is becoming more and more relevant in the EU, with the promotion of environmental management practice and the correct investment by farmers, also aiming at climate change mitigation and with the reinforcement of the reporting requirements of the sector within the climate policy framework. The elevation of CM and GM activities for the second commitment period can be a stimulus for improving data collection systems and implement at local and national level action measures beneficial for the climate. The technical board established under the National Registry for Carbon Sinks is now exploring ways on how voluntary mechanisms can incentivize supplementary sustainable mitigation actions. Indeed, the voluntary market represents an interesting way for attracting investment from private and public entities interested in green marketing. On the other side, many issues need to be solved, such as how to avoid double accounting, ensure transparency and credibility of the system, defining minimum requirements that preserve the environmental integrity. We are, at least in my country, we are starting to work on a new legislative act that we will, in English, we will call a Green Act, where we try to respond to the challenges posed by the free process, I said in the beginning. And in this context, we are trying to also to work on defining guidelines that will help us to respect the principle of no accounting, ensuring transparency, and also give, as you say, a more profitable option for the people working in agriculture to maintain their activity and their capacity to save the resources for our benefit. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Director. I would like to give the floor now to Mr. Andrea Maggiani, who I invite to join the podium. And Andrea Maggiani is the CEO of Carbon Sink Group, and he will be delivering a speech about the FairCarbon Projects. Please.
Thank you very much, Federico. Thank you to everyone to be here today. I am really happy to be part of the organization with the Italian Climate Network for this event. My presentation today will be focused on voluntary action. During this first day of the COP, different leaders and delegates have underlined that actual intended national determination contribution will not be enough to keep the temperature under the 2 degrees Celsius. And it's clear that governments alone will not be able to fill this gap. So Carbon Sink and also ICROA, we believe that voluntary action can really go behind regulatory requirements and can help at least to fill this gap. If we analyze what happened in the last 10 years, we see that almost 4.5 billion US dollars, is being invested in carbon finance thanks to voluntary action, and over 1 billion tons has reduced in so far. So this is the process. As we see, the carbon voluntary action is growing over time, and one of the data that is really important to say is that companies are starting to take in consideration the role of the voluntary action in their corporate strategy. And as you can see here in this example of data of CDP, almost 30% of this company offset purchase are based on voluntary action. Of course, as you know, the voluntary carbon market is small in terms of volume and value. However, as you can see in these graphics, the companies are starting to be aware that the effects of climate change on their supply chain, on their products, and and also the opportunities that these the climate change can make and open also new market. In general, the voluntary action give, I think, the company the unique opportunity to increase ambition and corporate targets. So, how is the situation in Italy that we see? I think that we don't have at the moment a really clear voluntary market. We don't have any data, heavy data on price and volume. And the only study that there is available on the voluntary side is made by Nucleo Forestale Monitoraggio del Carbonio. That it's a valuable study, but of course it's just cover small parts of the sector. Voluntary action in Italy, I think it's really a marginal market if it's compared with the other European market or the worldwide market. We don't have any Italian companies on the top 10 voluntary offset buyers. And the only, when we, and in the report of State of Voluntary Carbon Market, the only moments that Italy has been nominated is for non-forest mechanism arose in Italy are addition. So I really believe that it's a market that needs to be also, what we need to do is, of course, increasing the transparency of the market. So we need a regulatory framework on that, as we see in other countries, with the idea of trying to recognize the best practice. So when, as the President of the Ministry of Environment say, rules that can really underline points as additionality, transparency. And the reason because I say that is that at the moment, most of the company, one example is some of the companies that participate at the Expo, for example, in Milan, they doing voluntary action, but they don't know how to communicate that. So they prefer to don't communicate instead of sending misleading messages and so on. In this context, we have decided to create Carbon Sync with the idea of support companies, Italian companies, in the transition to carbon neutrality and sustainable future. And we have decided to do that in a transparent way. And this is the reason why we joined ICROA, because we really believe that the best practice needs to come also from other countries, other companies, and this exchange ideas with them, I think it's really important for us and for and for Italy. The philosophy of Carbon Sync, just to point out that we are really involved in climate mitigation, is that we really believe that climate finance needs to be used to support those who are most affected by the climate change. And that's why this year we launched FairCarbon. We have launched this FairCarbon initiative. That is something that going behind offset. FairCarbon is a new concept on the voluntary action that goes behind carbon with the aim of working in a value chain of the Italian company, delivering positive impacts and generating really mitigation. So we believe that the mitigation action can create a really link between the business of this company and climate strategy. This program is also being rewarded by Minister of Agriculture, and we have also received a nomination by a reward also by Minister of Environment the last day at the Expo at Pavilion. How it works? There are different ways we see to develop a consistent climate strategy. However, at Carbon Sync, we believe that this should be coming in collaboration with Italian NGOs in a way to try to deliver climate impacts in synergy with the private sector. So basically, what we see is the fact that the climate finance can play a key role in within the NGO activity and can be linked positively with the private sector that can really buy these emission purchase, these voluntary carbon credits that can be reinvested in the project. Of course, I'm here because the object of my presentation is to show concrete case. So just not talking about technical issue, but also showing you project that has been made by Italian NGO with Italian private sector in a really, say, good synergy. This is a project that we have developed in Mozambique, in the city of Maputo. Over 15,000 units of cooking stove have been distributed. The project has already generated carbon credits. They are under negotiation with some clients in Europe. And as you can see, we have tried to underline which are the benefits of what we are doing. And really, we believe that this project really changed the life of the person that are involved. One example, I think, is the save money. $20 saving for this for a family in Maputo, I can guarantee to you is really a huge amount of money, and also the effects on avoiding deforestation, reduce the pressure on the forest of this project. I think it's played a role. This model has also been replicated, and this has been replicated in Ethiopia with COPI, another Italian NGO. They're working with us and the private sector in order to deliver a project. Over 60,000 stoves is being distributed, and also here we are expecting next year to have the credits. So I really believe that the concept of FairCarbon could work, and I think there are in Italy companies that would be willing to participate. FairCarbon, as I say here, I try to point out the criteria. We just want only recognize international standard and certification. The reason why of that is because we have decided to join CROA, and also we decided to accept the rule of transparency, and so we try to avoid using standards that are not recognized internationally. The idea is to focus our project on a community base in order to achieve the highest impact as possible. We also try to we don't work on an industrial project, but however, we try to focus on forest, access to energy, and clean water. Also, I would like to say the transparency, I think it's really important, and the capacity building that we try to do in Italy. This year, we have done 3 courses in capacity building with the Italian NGO, try to explain them the role of the climate finance that will be linked to their activity. And also, I can say next year we're going to make another event. We open our city on that. We believe that we miss a lot of opportunity in our country that needs to be taken into consideration, and we need to try to find a way to, create this really voluntary action, to give value to the voluntary action. First of all, I think climate commitment in the private sector could be increased. Also, the idea this project will also increasing the cooperation funds, and we believe that with using our approach as FairCarbon, we can really measure the effects and the impact. So not only the effects on CO2, but only the impacts on other aspects. So, and also the overall result will be for sure an increasing overall contribution of Italy in mitigation and adoption. Which is our proposal? It's define clear rules for voluntary action in Italy at the first place, and this is really important and should be made in synergy between profit and non-profit, and also try to create really a new business model where international cooperation can collaborate with private sector in developing country, and also, of course, trying to give support to the company and private sector who try to engage in voluntary action. And we really believe that we need to make campaign. For example, the carbon neutral now made by UNFCCC is one example. We need to show the potential of the climate finance at the private sector with a positive message. Also, I believe that it's really important to incentivize the private sector in some way and help them to disclose the climate strategy in the corporate social responsibility report, and give also visibility to the voluntary action without any fear to send the wrong message out. Thank you very much, and we can finish with my presentation, and thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Mr. Gianni. I would like now to give the floor to Mr. Peter van Midwood, Director of Partnerships and Business Development at Gold Standards. Please, you have the floor.
Buongiorno. Or good afternoon. I think buongiorno is actually good morning. Would rather be, yeah? Thank you, Carbon Sync, for the invitation to speak here. My name is Peter van Midwoud. I'm Director of Partnerships and Business Development at the Gold Standard Foundation. Some of you might be familiar with our work, but I will do a little introduction to what we do, and also why we're here to support some of the great work that Carbon Sync is doing, and to share some vision on where we think this market is going and how best practice actually looks. So I hope you can all hear me. I have to admit that this is a very weird experience to look at a room full of headphones and assuming that they understand you, but I think it works. Okay. The Gold Standard, we were founded about 12 years ago. These were the days that everyone believed that carbon markets could be a game changer. Carbon trading was then coming up, and millions and billions of volumes of carbon were assumed to be traded. And there were a lot of questions around, would this actually work? Can it actually be a solution? And what will be the impact of it? There were quite some critical people as well. The CDM was the Clean Development Mechanism and not the Carbon Destruction Mechanism. But if we would not look too literally at how it actually was designed, it could actually result in that. So what I want to say with that is that the mandate from the CDM 12 years ago was to stimulate clean development in countries outside of the richer and polluting countries. So the idea was really a mechanism that would bring countries on their way to sustainable development, or to help with that. And WWF believed that it might work if we would put in the right rules, if we would make sure that actually this project would not just look for cheap carbon reduction opportunities, but would actually stimulate entrepreneurs to look for those carbon reduction opportunities that could provide additional sustainable development impacts. And that is where we were founded. This is why in Geneva, actually it was Basel those days, I won't bother you with those details. That is why 12 years ago the Gold Standard was founded as an additional rule on the CDM to make sure it would actually praise and value those projects that had additional sustainable development impact. And that still today is our mission. So how can I go to the next slide? You do that? Oh, I do it. Okay. So our vision is climate security and sustainable development for all. And that hasn't changed. The Gold Standard Foundation is still a foundation that looks at climate security, meaning mitigation and adaptation, in combination with sustainable development impacts. But we of course also see that the markets are changing, and the way in which we see that best practice actually looks is changing as well. So we are still very committed to our vision, but we're also changing a little bit how we want to achieve it and which instruments we actually use. This is a slide that you might have seen in the previous session in the room at the other side. Is that we're really at an important point in time. And I've seen many of you at all the COPs before, and sometimes you get a little bit COP tired, but this was one of the first times I was COP excited again, because something is going to happen this time. And not only because there's probably going to be some deal with a lot of details still to be discussed, but also now in 2015, the global goals for sustainable development have agreed. And that means we now have almost, I would call it an awareness package. There's a signal sent from the governments and to the governments that sustainable development and climate security is really the top priority for bringing this planet anyway to a sustainable future beyond 2050. And that means, and that's not thanks to us, but we definitely have inspired it as gold standard, that there's an even higher need to work on our vision of climate security and sustainable development, because the momentum is there now. And there's large institutions that bring this momentum now together, including the UN. I was asked today to speak a little bit about how an international standard today can still benefit a domestic market, like, for example, in Italy. And I was also asked to talk about how our experiences can probably help a domestic system that is going to be set up in Italy. And to be a little bit provocative, let me start by saying that I think the problem has always been that international standards were maybe not really benefiting the domestic action. Because for a long time we have believed that we just have to search for the cheapest carbon reductions that can be found in the world, and as long as we find them and pay for them, we will have big impact. Today we're on the start that becomes old school. It has been useful, we have been doing a lot of things. But if we really want to have transformative impact, it's time to think a bit smarter, a bit more sophisticated about what is needed. And what I mean with that is that we, as Gold Standard, together with the partners that we work, we believe that every corporate, and actually every institution in this world, should set up a dual target to work towards this 2050 vision of climate security and sustainable development. And this dual target is to reduce your emissions according to science at home, without compensating that effort with any other action outside of this. And secondly, to also help to finance additional emission reductions and sustainable development outside of your direct sphere of influence. And this is the way forward, because there we avoid that those two very important goals are going to compete with each other. That's not what we need. We need commitment in Italy to reduce emissions in Italy and to work on more sustainable activities in Italy, and to make resources and finance available for that, both from the government as from the private sector. And we also need a financing commitment to reduce emission reductions outside of the country, in developing countries that are lacking the resources to do it. And today, in the room next door, together with Fairtrade International, we have launched an initiative that is called the Fairtrade Climate Standard. And that is really an effort going in this direction, where we bring the South and the North together and make them together working on this issue of climate change, and giving them both responsibilities and opportunities to reduce emissions, and make finance flow from North to South to make sure that sustainable development and climate security can go hand in hand. And it's going to be really important, because we believe that this is the direction where we have to go. It is, by the way, a coincidence that this is called FairCarbon, and we presented the Fairtrade Climate Standard at the other hand, at the other side. But let's look at this as an opportunity. I really encourage Carbon Sync and Andrea to pick up this best practice that we're developing there, because it will result in emission reductions in Italy, and it will result in additional financing. Then there was the second question. How will this be used in the future in Italy, domestically? How will the future look? Well, I don't know exactly. But it's clear to me, I'm from Holland. I don't have all the nice names that the rest of the people on the panel have, unfortunately. But I'm part of the European Union. So are we all. And the European Union is, I'm a little bit proud to be a European Union when it comes to climate change, in the sense that I feel that there's a strong signal from Europe to lower emissions. And as most of you might know, Europe is thereby looking at the so-called ETS sector, so the really strong emitters, and the non-ETS sectors, which are falling under what we call the effort-sharing decision. And this effort-sharing decision is going to be very important for all the domestic action in the decades ahead. Because the effort-sharing decision means that also when you're not one of the big polluters, still together you have a target that you have to reach. A target that is actually stronger than in the ETS sector. And we as Gold Standard want to play a role there as well. And we're still figuring out how that exactly is going to work. What is going to be our role when it comes to the effort sharing decision to the ESD in Europe? We don't know exactly. But we're building now the third version of the Gold Standard version 3.0, that we build up in 3 columns and 3 elements. And those 3 elements, it starts with the normal principles and safeguards that we always have and always want to see from our projects. And then there's a second pillar which allows you to quantify your impact, carbon emission reductions, health impact, maybe avoided deforestation or increasing forests. All these kind of things you can measure, and you can then sell it to the market, or you can find a sponsor who wants to support you with that. And with that, we're setting up a results-based finance mechanism under our standard for all these different outcomes. And by offering this flexibility, we're doing this on purpose. We also hope that we'll get better traction with initiatives that are going on in Italy, for example, and also in the rest of Europe under the ESD. I'm not going to all the details, what exactly we're gonna discuss and work on under version 3 of the Gold Standard, but you're all invited to help this process. We will have a public consultation in January or February, so the first version is ready. And look at it with your own glasses on. Is this a standard that can help me making more sustainable businesses? Is this a standard that can help me to find those projects that are delivering on emission reductions or climate adaptation and sustainable development? And if it doesn't, call us, let us know, because it means that we have to think further about how it works, or we have to explain you better how it works. So we're working on that. We encourage you to help us to create a standard that offers the flexibility that we think is needed in a world where finance is not coming only from carbon markets anymore, but it's actually coming through a green climate fund, or from the effort sharing decision, or from corporate partners in Italy that all want to finance and take their responsibility of that. It should offer that flexibility, but at the same time, it should be as robust as we're used to work as Gold Standard, namely making sure that we have safeguards and principles on project design, local stakeholder consultation, indicators on trade-offs, and improving sustainable development impacts. That's really what we want to achieve with the standard, and that's why we created the new version. I'm running out of time, but I just want to repeat one more time what I was saying at the beginning. How important it is that business commitments to the Sustainable Development Goals and to reducing carbon emissions is a dual target: reducing your emissions at home, taking your responsibilities in your company, and at the same time making a financing commitment, financing emission reductions and sustainable development outside of your own direct supply chain. And we as Gold Standard will continue working on that with partners like Carbon Sync, perhaps even with the Italian government, if it's a model that works for them, with partners like Fair Trade, with whom we have taken the first step on that, and with everyone who believes that this is the right way to go. Thank you very much, and I look forward to the rest of the discussion.
Thank you very much. I would like now to give the floor to Professor Stefano Casarini, teaching climate change mitigation at the Politecnico di Milano University. Please, you have the floor.
Thanks. Good afternoon. I will say something on the conceptual and scientific framework of carbon offset. I know that these are not the most appealing items in the climate change debate, so I will last only 10 minutes and 10 slides. So we can start with the advantages. I will skip all the things that have already been said. We know that incorporation of market-based mechanisms such as offsetting or climate change policy has many advantages, and is a contribution to the reduction of the overall cost of the transition to a low greenhouse gas emission world. Offset can realize emission reduction that are either not in a sector that is not covered by or not appropriate for an emission cap, or they are not really or cost-effective addressed by traditional common and control policy. Furthermore, offset can stimulate emission reduction activity in the beginning year of a greenhouse gas emission reduction regime, driving in changes in infrastructure into innovative technology. So there are a lot of co-benefits. I will not repeat all the things that have been said on the social and environmental co-benefits of setting. But we have also to say that we have to admit that carbon offset have also the limitation. A lot of problems have been documented. Critical point we registered, even in the project that appeared more reliable. Many system projects didn't really reach the goal of emission reduction, of an additional emission reduction. So additionality has been a problem in the past. And also double counting, leakages, permanent of removals, and lack of independent controls. So this is things that have to be, we have to face this point. And in general, we can say that if individual projects are not linked to a serious long-term policy, they cannot really achieve the result of emission reduction. So we can say that in market mechanisms have been heavily criticized. There are two examples for report with word of severe and radical disapproval of offset. And also in the, as I want to quote the last things I have read, market mechanisms are still actually regarded with suspect. As an example, here even in the last encyclical letter by Pope Francis, there is a statement saying that the environment is one of the good that the market mechanisms are not able to defend or promote adequately. So I think that we have to understand the reason of this skepticism. The offset are surrounded by suspect of being an excuse for business as usual and integrity of all the instruments of carbon market. I believe that this is there is a fundament in some of the questions that have been posed. And also in the scientific literature, the environmental integrity of project-based mechanisms has been subject to controversy. And there's been extensive research, as an example, on additionality. Here, of course, I don't have the time to go into all the detail, but as an example, additionality is the key point under discussion. And the definition of additionality is not so easy, because we know all that additionality is the process of determining whether a proposed activity is better than a specific baseline, if we will reduce some extra good in the future, relative to a reference scenario. But if we go in details, we realize that it's not easy to understand what is the baseline, what is additionality, because sometimes the projects interfere with the baseline. So, as an example, I want to quote Gemma Water with this interesting review, say that there are a lot of problems of circularity in the definition of the additionality, also in major program and standards. Because the definition of additionality requires to define a counterfactual future. This is not easy. So, but we have also to say that a lot of methodologies have been developed to overcome this problem. So we know that there are problems in definition of additionality, but we know there are also solutions. Maybe they are not complete solutions because we need compromise between accuracy and between the to be clear, to be effective, to have a simple system. So we have different kind of additionality. We have we know that there are different kind of uncertainty in the evaluation of additionality. So we know that we have to do more. As an example, yesterday we have seen yesterday night in the side event. We have seen that there are also in the there was a side event yesterday night on the hot air that is in the ATS market, and in a report of the Stockholm Environmental Institute that appeared this year, although yesterday we discussed that they quantified that more or less 70% of the credits, JI credits, joint implementation credits that have been traded in the EU ETS, they are not additional, and more or less more than 60% of CDM credits. So there are figures that are important. And so I just want to say that there is also a problem of double counting. We have to face the criticism considering of the double counting because qualifying offset can only be in the sector that are outside emission caps. Otherwise, there is a problem of double counting. So I just want to conclude my presentation. I'd like in some some point, some way to go forward. First of all, it's important, in my opinion, to define protocol to allow more consultation and participation from stakeholders, prior and before and during the implementation, and in particular in developing countries. This is a participation is important. Transparent communication and surveys is important, and the presence of independent certification scheme. A lot of work has been done, as you have already seen, but we can do more, and this is important that we will do more. And certification system has to be clear and cheaper also. Increase the collaboration between standard bodies. There has been a side event 2 days ago in the new standard system. And additionality is important also in voluntary carbon, in the voluntary carbon market, but we have to say that it is less important than in compliance market. So we can accept some compromise. Government endorsement is important because we need the government could intervene in the creation, management, and monitoring of the set market. As I said before, we need a policy framework for long-term mitigation. And then, as an example, we needed to highlight the technology that work more, in which the offset program could work better. For example, positive list for technology with a high upscaling and high upscaling innovation potential. Also, negative list for technology with risk of carbon lock-in, where there is a risk that offset maybe could help the lock-in of carbon-intensive technology. Export monitoring verification, and last of all, the cancellation of issue credits, the credibility of registry of cancellation could avoid the country. So my conclusion is that the policymaker must have a clear understanding of the pros and cons, the opportunity and the challenges of presented by the integration of a set in greenhouse gas emission reduction system. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor. I would like now to leave the floor to Sophie Winhalg, Program Director of FRAW, and I would like to invite her to the podium. Please.
So thank you everyone for my participation today. Thank you to Carbon Sync. I think it's very timely that we have this discussion on voluntary carbon markets in the Italian market right here at Paris COP. It's the first COP that I've ever been to where there's been such a strong focus on the need for business engagement, state actors to participate in climate action. And as we've already heard this morning and today, then we really do need to encourage further climate ambition to remain within a 2-degree temperature limit. So looking at how we can further support the voluntary market in the Italian markets is a really great thing to do. So I'm Sophie Greenhalgh. I'm Programme Director for the International Carbon Reduction and Offset Alliance. ACROA is an international business association, and we were set up in 2008 really to address some of the points that my colleague on the panel has just run through and develop a set of best practices to really communicate the value of additional voluntary carbon management and offsetting to a business community. We know that throughout time since the market began, then there's been a lot of different initiatives, a lot of different feedback within the market, which has caused confusion to business. So that's really where ACROA steps in to promote international best practice, international standards such as the gold standard, and I see that we've got VCS in the room, to really engage business much further on taking that next step on their climate ambitions. We represent a number of businesses around the globe that provide carbon consulting, carbon finance, climate finance advisory services to thousands of multinational corporates to encourage them to take meaningful and ambitious climate action. And we're also a very proud partner this year of the electricity is climate neutral now, which we really believe is the first time that a multilateral global organisation has really backed the voluntary carbon market. So we're really pleased to support those efforts, and we think that further communication to all actors is really important, and hopefully we can put that in the context of the Italian market as we move forward. We've also regularly engaged governments on the design and development of domestic carbon markets, which of course is why we're here today. We have two key objectives. One is to foster robust and meaningful voluntary action as a climate tool for corporates. And the second one is to encourage best practice and avoid any false claims, and again, just moving back to some of the challenges that we faced in the early days of the market. I really think that we've moved forward from those points that were just made by the last presenter. We have a shared goal with many people in the room today to really maintain a 2-degree temperature rise. So how we can further work with partners, governments, business to really engage on this effort is something that we're really keen to continue to discuss further. Over the years, we've seen many governments putting a hand in the voluntary carbon market in a variety of capacities. For example, we've had Australia develop the National Carbon Offset Standard to various limits of success. We have a lot of learnt lessons from those schemes, as well as Costa Rica and their climate neutrality goals, development of a domestic platform, and Japan, just to name a few examples of governments that are looking at this on a more local level and engaging business. So I really do strongly encourage the Italian government to look at these different case studies, see what's worked and adopt those practices as well. I'd say a couple of key points that we've learned from these different approaches is really that business needs clear rules and guidelines to be set out. So any further interaction by the Italian government is really to clear up communication issues rather than setting new rules that conflict with international best practices. So I would say that was a good starting point. And you know, the wheel has already been designed, so look to what's already been done out there. And then secondly, business needs a reason to engage in the market. And this is really key, and it's where we end up with the current market situation as it stands today. So anything that can be done to drive demand in the market, drive awareness for business to participate in this amazing market. And I'm not going to talk about the local impacts of projects around the world. I think that we've already seen you know, some of the incredible things that the market is delivering on the ground. But communicating that to the business and making it very relevant to the business for them to actually voluntarily start pitching up climate finance to go into the space is really important. And we do think that the government has a key role to play in this space. A couple of things that we've seen have worked in different areas is raising the carbon agenda onto businesses. And one way that governments have done that is through mandatory reporting and disclosure. So actually enforcing that Italian businesses have to report their carbon emissions is one way to generate and ensure that carbon remains really at the CEO level, the director level, where the decision making gets done to raise awareness in this space. And then the second thing that governments can do is provide incentives, and this can be done through a variety of ways. For example, tax breaks for businesses that are really taking ambitious climate action, awards and recognition, and encouraging businesses to also communicate the activities that they're already taking in this space. Because as we found for much of the leadership that's been taken around the world with corporates, we don't hear a great deal about it, even though they're taking that next step in what they're doing. So encouraging them to promote more how they're engaging in the voluntary market, and encouraging the people that are already taking action to come out of the woodwork and really promote what they're doing is important. And if the government can play a key role in that, then absolutely fantastic. So I, sort of open the doors to continue to discuss with CROA what's been learned already, and take the next dialogues and steps and see how we can help further. Because we're really keen to also help foster a really successful voluntary carbon market in Italy. So I'll leave it there for now. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I would like now to give the floor to Professor Stefania Proietti, teaching at the Guglielmo Marconi University, Rome, and also a member of the committee of Everest K2 CNR. Please, you have the floor.
Thank you, Federico. And today, good afternoon to everyone. On behalf of EED K2 CNR Association, we would like to welcome you to this side event. My name is Stefania Proietti. I'm professor at Guglielmo Marconi University, and I'm also coordinator of capacity building activities at EED K2 CNR. And EED K2 CNR is a non-profit organization which promotes scientific and technological research in multiple areas. This is best represented by its pyramid laboratory located on the Mount Everest. And showing the example of the activity of the K2CNR shared project stands shared fence for station at high altitude for searching on the environment started in 2005 with the aim to promote continuous scientific observation in key high mountain regions able to contribute to the original global climate change. As shown in the slide, share is divided in some work package where scientific research and climate, technological research and climate, information technology, and on under my coordination, capacity building work package. Capacity building includes training activities, transfer and skill and technologies, waste management, and support to governments for decision-making processes regarding the environment. Some activity of the capacity building work package and the project are, for example, the World Environmental Day celebration with awareness campaign in the Valley, and the distribution of the book What is Global Warming, the World COPD Day on the chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, and the waste management new system that we implemented under the advice of the Nepal government. But today we want to talk about some projects relative to the valorization of carbon credits, voluntary carbon credits. The project SIRA is Smart Sustainable Residential Area, aims at promoting useful strategies for sustainable development of Kuldu Valley through energy and environmental training. And for this project, we have for support experimental development stage and the creation of the pilot project. We implemented an on-site investigation in Charikaka, a village of Kuldu Valley, and not included in the main trekking routes where people are resident for the most part of the year. The village and its inhabitants have been the focus of a cross-assessment in order to describe the reference baseline concerning the following areas of interest: the design, atmosphere science, and engineering. Energy poverty is in some remote areas, as Charikaka, constrains people to work strongly impacting fuels that, together with bad daily habits and obsolete technologies, cause high level of air pollution. Cook stoves fueled by solid fuels are one of the key contributors to short-lived climate pollutants, as, for example, the black carbon. The carbon is a solid form of mostly pure carbon that absorbs solar radiation light at wavelengths. High concentration of black carbon and other co-emitted pollutants have severe implications both on the environment and to human health. And for example, in the picture, situation of cherry tart, a very common situation in a typical house for the preparation of tea. Traditional cook stoves are responsible for over 25% of black carbon emissions worldwide, and this black carbon is considered the second largest man-made contributor to global warming. This influence climate and the influence is greatly underestimated. Tripartite investigation therefore continues in the measurement of the carbon and ambient inside indoor aerosol number size distribution were performing thanks to a portable device developed by the CNR, the Institute of Atmospheric Sciences and Climate of the Italian National Research Center in Bologna. From a medical point of view, the indoor air pollution is the fourth leading cause of death in the world. After heart and lung disease and respiratory infection, consequences are tragic because 4 million people die prematurely from illness attributable to indoor air pollution, including a large number of children. And during the mission on site, Jakarta, medical and engineer worked together. Medical doctors from the University National Research Center of Pisa detected the presence of markers of early arteriosclerosis with ultrasound, and other colleagues from Ferrara assessed the respiratory function by means of spirometry. During the same survey, a lot of data were collected to describe the local context in terms of housing and constructive standards. Most buildings are equipped with inefficient stoves. More of 90% population is available to make change. And during the same survey, a lot of data were collected to describe the local context in terms of housing and constructive standards, consumption and condition of energy supply, and other features of the actual energy system. In the perspective of a possible pilot project of carbon credits origination, particular attention will be paid to the study of heating, lighting, and cooking solutions based on renewable and clean energy technologies. In this framework, we are developing a project to fight climate change emission on high mountains. It aims at building up a technical, economical feasibility solution for also heating, lighting, and cooking, based only on renewable and clean energy technologies, in order to guarantee a sustainable development, fight climate change, and health problems from poor indoor quality, and to reduce energy purity. It should include the origination of carbon credits due to the reduction of CO2 equivalent emissions, the enhancement of black carbon abatement, and other positive externalities. The data was collected by ShareGeo Network, and ShareGeo Network is an international standard catalog of data and metadata available on internet. And this is some example of the data collected. The distribution of wind, for example, you can see the distribution of wind that we use for the dimension of the system. The system replaces the cook stove and is made by solar, wind, and storage. As for load profile estimation, we processed data collected during the on-site survey. The households were characterized as residential and commercial. And this is the system, only made in Italy. You can show in the slide for the off-grid renewable power generation, we suppose to couple the solar panel, photovoltaic panel, a micro wind turbine developed in the wind tunnel of the University of Perugia, and the storage device. This is some simulation with MATLAB software to complete the evaluation of the energy balance of the system hour per hour, and we study also the life cycle analysis and the economical feasibility of the system. The result you can see in the slide. In order to enhance the research, some activities are currently in progress. For example, the experimental development of components and the introduction of experimental results and economical aspects. Further investigation include the assessment of target context characteristics. We are now moving to compare the baseline and the project scenarios for the quantification of avoided CO2 and the calculation of the emissions reduction from black carbon and other co-emitted species. This phase has to be conducted in according to international standard as black carbon quantification methodology from gold standard. This kind of carbon project could be easily implemented according to the fair trade climate standard, and this kind of project we hope carbon credits or equivalent could be easily included into the FairCarbon platform. In conclusion, we have some action carried out during the research project will be characterized by impact on health, on life quality, on the capacity building, and also on carbon credits as support for this cooperation project. Thank you.
Professor Brocchieri will now give a very short second presentation about another case study with regards to Pakistan.
Thank you, Federico. We would like to welcome to Pakistan delegates that are present at this event because ED-T2CNR cooperate with many countries in the world, not only in Nepal but also in Pakistan. In Pakistan, we have a project, a seed project, with the Central Karakoram National Park, because the association working in Digit, Baltistan area of the Central Karakoram National Park, with several integrated projects. In particular, SEED is the acronym for Social, Economic and Environmental Development in the Central Karakoram National Park, is funded by Pakistan-Italian debt swap agreement, and in the period 2009 to 2015, the budget funded is about 9 million of euros. In synthesis, SEED project aims at an integrative development of CTNP region through supporting the implementation and management of CTNP, improving local well-being and livelihoods options. This in the slide you can see some other association, local in particular, that cooperate with us. EDT2 is the implementing organization of the project. Project SEED is very ambitious. 4 objectives, 13 expected results, and over 50 activities implemented inside the SEED project. We have also a pilot project about cook stove replacement. This project is a pilot project, it's very little but replicable for us. in Arandu. Arandu is one of the valley lying at the highest altitude in the CTMP area. Arandu is suffered of severe deforestation for last several years. Women, in particular, women of the valley, have to fetch wood after hours from the mountain. The pilot project aims at assessing the impact of fuel efficiency stove provided to 42% of the population of Arandu in Arandu Valley. Conventional used stove posed a lot of problem, as we can see in the previous speech, and the smoke in particular is one of the reasons also in Pakistan of the several diseases in this area. Another problem is for people the unavailability of hot water, in particular for children. This is the conventional used stoves in the village of Arandu. So the methodology of the project consists in the replacement of 25, 42% of the total family who lives in Arandu Valley, and to assess the results of the project, talking with people who live in Arandu. Research was conducted in August 2014, and this is a sample better stoves. Results say that more important notes, more important topics. Stoves were termed very productive and useful for variable percent of people. Finally, we can say that 33% of people, 33% is the save of wood. Because of proper discharge system for smokes, 80% respondents answered that the stoves were healthy friendly. And also, one of the most important results is that 70% of women mentioned that their workload was decreased in terms of fishing food. So in conclusion, the community is very happy for these efficient stoves. The real beneficiaries are women, but also children and senior people in quality life. We have many advantages, and in the next future, we hope this project can become a fair carbon credits origination project. So thank you for this.
Thank you very much. So before going to the final remarks of this side event, we would like to open the floor to questions. So I would kindly ask the technical staff to support us in handing the microphone to participants wishing to ask a question. So please, if you have any question, just raise your hand and we will be handing a microphone for questions. Please. Chi vuole rispondere? Chi vuole rispondere per... You want to answer? Vuoi rispondere?
So your question and try to foresee what we will get in Paris compared to this. First, I wish to mention that in the EU and the sea, our engagement to reduce our emission to 40% set out the market mechanism. So the market mechanism will be absolutely additional in respect of the target. And I think what we expect from Paris is an open door, something we can work in the following edition of the next COPs, and there we will find the technical, technical rules, and I think there will be room enough also for the voluntary.
In our project in Nepal, carbon credits are a potential tool to replace totally the energy, fossil fuel or poor biomass, replace this energy solution with all renewable technologies. We are demonstrating that in this situation we have CO2 equivalent avoided, so if we can have carbon credits, we can do, for example, family, Nepalese family, a little credit, a little amount to replace these poor energy technologies with all renewable technologies. In our case, carbon credits and voluntary carbon markets are only tool to move to a sustainable development from the beginning in areas with high energy demand.
Thank you. Is there any other question? Yes, please. It is. Sure.
concerning, thanks for your question. I will respond only for the first one. Concerning the market mechanism, I have to say that we have to be grateful that they existed because we can uh, fulfill our Kyoto goals also thanks to the credits I have to admit. And concerning the part related to the grassland, the cropland, and we are now starting, as I say, to work on that. We need guidelines to be sure that we don't make double counting, etc. I think from this workshop can also come the idea that when we have a more clear picture on how we want to proceed, we can call some of you to discuss our possible initiative and get also your suggestions, and I think that will be very.
You want answering the
About the project in California, this place with all values, and this is a situation that we don't find we have examples in school, so that we are totally replacement, it's totally new. And we are thinking back to now consider that we use current technologies because of the known technologies, so and we want to send young companies to and to create also new jobs, new green jobs. And these ideas, sustainable development and the neutral situation to be and all the solutions to
Thank you. We will take one last question, and then we will have just a 30 seconds closing remarks. Please.
For the question. I have to say the Ministry for Environment is working very closely with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. We are engaging ourselves in many memorandum of understanding with many countries around the world on the themes of the decarbonization and also sustainability. We are signing an agreement with the Caribbean Islands. We will sign here in this very Maldives Island. We will sign with Lesotho, Botswana. We are going to sign with Comoros we are going to sign an agreement also with Egypt. So we have engaged ourselves in lots of initiative. We are also engaged with the World Bank on how to do it initiative. We are putting money on the African Development Banks for work on renewable. We are no more cooperating, but we are collaborating with China because now I think it's enough. We start to collaborate more than cooperate with them. And I think we will get good results. We are also preparing some country in the Latin area. So we will consider a possible initiative. We are engaging in many areas of the globe, of the planet. Naturally, this is also an interesting initiative. I would say that we have to decide our strategy for action, what we do in the current year, and we will try to consider initiatives like this.
Before giving the floor for 30-second closing remarks to our president, I would also like to take this chance to invite all participants willing to receive the presentations presented today to come by the podium at the end of our side event to leave us their details to send the presentation. So, Veronica, please. You have the floor.
Thank you, Federico. Thank you, first of all, for organizing this event. I think that was really important for us as an association being here and organizing our first event. And as an NGO and also as an environmentalist, we are often asked what we think about the carbon markets. And well, it depends, because when you think about cheap carbon offsets or cheap carbon credits, without a story and without a real reduction behind it, of course we are against them. And of course we hope that also the European carbon market and the European emission trading system will go a lot further and will reform the market, and we will also fight for it during next year. And then, but then when it comes to high quality carbon offsets, like the ones that we were speaking about in the previous speeches, then we strongly support them. Really strong support them because, as Andrea was telling us before, these projects are changing lives for the better. So they don't just give us a climate benefit, but they give us also other benefits. And benefits comes from the social part. So thanks again to all the speakers. And as a final remarks, I would like just to take some of the keywords and expressions that you said before, so that we can fix them in our mind and maybe go further in the future about this issue. And the first one is sustainable development at local level, because we always speak about climate change as a global issue, and of course this is a global issue, but we have to think also about the local effects of our actions. Then about climate security, and there was the question before about how much the offsets are really contributing to fight climate change. Well, also about this, we know already that this conference, the COP21, is taking us, will take us forward, but will not fulfill our target to maintain the decrease in temperature and, under 2 or under 1.5 degrees. So we know that there is a gap and that we need to fill the gap. Then synergy between public and private, and cooperation with NGOs. Then Caserini spoke before about integrity. And then the last one is the Italian voluntary carbon markets. We think that this of today is the first event, and we will start speaking about this, but we need also to go further and to think of the future. And we would like to propose to our speakers to meet again in Rome next year to go further, to move forward on this market. Thank you.